Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Skipping Lunch at Night. People like to make fun of the name, but originally I was running this over my lunch hour, so I didn't have to skip work to do it. And it's just gotten to be at night now. So the name has stuck and the context doesn't matter unless I'm talking to people in Australia, which I have actually done. Have a wonderful guest to be on here tonight to talk about a really cool new crowdfunding campaign for some neat DM tools for creating hex crawls. We'll get to that in just a second. I want to start off with a couple of announcements tonight. So first off here, we have got EcclesiaCon, which is coming up March 28th through 30th here in Palmyra, New Jersey. Proceeds are benefiting booksmiles.org and Central Baptist Church's roof replacement loan. We've got a charity auction going on. We've got a paint and take mini station. We've got a whole bunch of different tables, games of all types are being, role-playing games of all types are being played. So if you're free and in the area, you want to come out, roll some dice, do some good, that would be great. And then there's another cool online convention coming up called CRIT, which is the community-run infinite tabletop. That's going to be running online. It's a free online convention, going to run from the June 28th through, or 21st through 28th, coming up this month. And there are a ton of games that are being played. You get the QR code right there in the screen. And if you're interested in checking some stuff out, I know I'm running my Sentinel Comics RPG session that I'm running at EcclesiaCon. I know that John Fredericks is running some of his stuff, his homebrew Star Trek and Star Wars, but some really cool games that are being run there. So if you're interested in that and you need to want to play some games, maybe you're looking for a new group, this is a good place to start. Also, on Wednesday of this week, I have my next Skipping Lunch at Night coming up with Jason Campbell from Shadowmane. He has got his new mystery for both Binderwood Bay and for Cypher System, a light version of Cypher System called Hint. Wonderful. I think it's a murder mystery. Can't wait to chat with him about that. That is all my announcements that I have for right now, because I want to get to our guest who has been sitting there waiting quietly as I do all of this stuff. You can't hear him, but he's laughing right now. But had encountered Joe just through email a couple of years ago, talking about some cool software that he works on, and finally got to meet him face to face at PAX U. And this is Joe Wetzel from Inkwell Ideas. How you doing, Joe?
I'm good. Great to talk to you. Looking forward to it.
I'm really glad that you're on tonight. It really is cool. I was so excited when you reached out about the BACKERKIT that we're going to talk about pretty soon.
Right. Yeah.
But I do like folks to have a chance to actually get to know you a little bit. And so this is one question that I have asked everybody that has been on my stream so far is, this is a really unique, wonderful, and strange hobby. What first drew you into it?
The quote I like, I heard some other game designer said this. It was like, if I was 14, I'd be my own hero. So this is kind of what I always wanted to do when I was a kid. I mean, I can remember back when I was, 14, a fun Friday night, for me was to, tinker around on my computer, my Amiga 500 at the time, and to be building. I had a great BattleTech mech making program type thing where you could fill in all the stats and it would balance the tonnage and everything like that.
Oh gosh.
Written in Amiga Basic as a high school sophomore or whatever I was at the time. So yeah, this is something that I'd always wanted to do. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay. So now you were talking about doing battle mechs and things like that. What's your favorite genre of game to actually play?
Playing, I'll play anything, and I love a lot of different systems and settings. I mean, classic fantasy probably is still tops. One of the most fun projects I ever put together was a few years ago. We have side quest decks also, where
Yeah.
each card little mini adventure, kind of an adventure outline on one side and a map on the other side. And one of those decks is Pulp Adventures. And
Oh,
for
okay.
that particular deck, every quest is based on a real world historical mystery or lost artifact.
Oh, no
And
way.
so it was so fun to do all the researching of all those things. And it was Keith, who did a lot of the art. Keith Curtis does a lot of the artwork for me, and maps and stuff when there need to be more artistic. And he said that it was really hard to find reference material for some of these obscure
Yeah.
things, but
Okay. Okay.
you have like the Voynich manuscript, and you've got the Confederate gold, and all these, the Amber Room, stuff like that.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay. And then if you are at a table, do you prefer being the GM or do you want to run a PC?
Uh, I'm switch. I think I'll go either way. I don't know if I prefer. I think I burn out if I DM too much.
Okay.
Yeah, but I'm okay with it, and it's just, I can't do that, you know,
All the
for a
time.
whole convention, for example.
Gotcha. I'm trying to get my chat window to actually work because it's being mean and
Oh,
dumb. Half the time it works and half the time it doesn't because it's all just a different hack. So you are the first person that I've seen that actually had a balance. I was like, I'll do both.
mhm. Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
I tend to be the more forever GM at this point, but yeah, I totally understand the need to run a PC
yeah,
every now and again.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
what's the craziest system you've ever played?
Craziest system that I've ever actually played.
Yeah.
I'm drawing a blank on that. I don't know what would be the craziest system I've ever played.
Okay.
Um, for a while there, especially early after COVID, I was doing a bunch of solo stuff.
Really? Okay.
Um, and I soloed, probably 20 or 40. In fact, I even put a bunch of little mini reviews of a bunch of these things up there.
Okay.
And I think I soloed Maid, so that was probably the strangest. Uh,
Maid? I don't know that
Maid.
one. No.
It's an RPG where you're a group of people, usually a group of um, women who are, serving the master.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
And you can take it in different directions if you want, or not.
Gotcha. And now for something completely different. Yes.
Yeah,
Wow. Okay.
you asked strange. So
I did. I did, and ask and I
yeah.
shall receive. That's pretty cool. Okay. I have no notes. That's pretty awesome. All right. So down for that. People know who you are now. It's like my version of the Colbert questionnaire. Let's talk a little bit about Inkwell Ideas because that's who you are with. How long has Inkwell Ideas been around?
I think I formally founded the company in like 2005 or 2006. And then like 2 years later, though, is when, for the first year or so,
Uh huh.
it was kind of just my blog. And I was thinking, well, maybe I'll make some affiliate income type thing off
Okay.
of it and that sort of thing. And didn't really. But I also was just I'm always trying in my personal projects to, um, uh, at least when I had a day job, I would kind of augment my study for whatever technology I needed to work on for my day job as a software developer
Okay.
with some other side project type thing. So I think the first software that the first product that Inkwell Ideas did was software to create your own coat of arms. And we called it the Coat of Arms Design Studio. We
Okay.
don't have it out there anymore. I haven't, I've been so busy with everything else that we do that I haven't had a chance to really update it in forever. And eventually I was just like, well, there's other tools that are out there. And if I get back to totally rewriting it, maybe then I'd put it back out there. But at least for now, there's just other tools that have been stayed more up to date. So that's
Gotcha.
no longer out there. But we put that out there, like I said, probably 2007 or something.
Uh-huh.
But then soon after that, I was doing the project I was working on was a mapping software for DARPA, the Defense Research Association, Defense Advanced Research Projects, so something like that. And they had this idea of having a tool that soldiers would use that would sync to their devices when they're out in the field to make it easier for them to write up reports.
Okay.
And so I was working on that, and was like, oh, I've got this data model in my head for a hex mapping program that's along these same lines. Let me do that on my spare time again, to kind of stay up on the technology and everything.
Uh-huh.
And that became Hexographer. And then that that's been out since like 2008. And then we got into some other projects. We did Dungeon Morph Dice, and then the side quest decks that I
Uh-huh.
mentioned,
Uh-huh.
the NPC decks. These sorts of things came out just to kind of be a little bit more diverse with our products and everything. And then probably 2017 or 2018, we came out with the replacement of Hexographer being Worldographer.
Worldographer.
We had Cityographer and Dungeonographer as well,
Mm-hmm.
but then we consolidated that all into one kind of suite program with Worldographer. And then we've just come out with Worldographer 2025, which is a big rewrite of that, since that's been out for 7 years or so. Which is in beta right now, but it's in public beta. It's out there. It's
Gotcha.
the preferred version to use now. So that's, oh gosh, I don't know. I went off on a tangent.
I'm
You were
having
asking
fun.
how we got
Listen,
started, and we got all the way to the end.
you have revealed so many cool things in just our chats that we've had about how wild your career path is.
Okay.
Because you've mentioned, this didn't get on stream, but it's like you ran the website for Huey Lewis and the news.
Yep.
And then, we got the idea for Worldographer because I was doing this DARPA project, and pew! Like, wow, that's a very
Well,
interesting career path.
I think everybody's like that. Everybody has all these different weird things that they've done and been involved in, and you kind of you spend a little bit of time getting to know anybody, and you're going to find, oh wow, I didn't know you did that. And that's really cool. That's interesting. Okay.
there's yes, but the Huey Lewis and DARPA mix is one. That's a unique one. I mean, just got to take the credit when you come to
Yeah,
it.
I saw them a year ago. They were opening a new musical on Broadway. So.
Oh, really? Oh, that's
Mhm. Yeah,
awesome.
well, it
It's not
didn't
there.
stay on Broadway. It was on Broadway for about 3 or 4 months,
Okay.
and to quote Huey, the gist was, the reviews were all like, "It's much better than expected," and he was saying, "Well, we want people to expect a lot. This isn't
It's
good, and so
it's such a
anyway,
backhanded compliment. It's
it
much
kind of
better than
is.
expected. It's like,
Yeah,
why would you
yeah,
write that? So that's why
yeah,
you've been around for about 2000. You're coming on 18 years, almost 20 years, which is really kind of cool. We
yep,
talked a little bit about what drove you to start the company and what products you're known for. You started as a digital tools company, but I think a lot of people know you for your Dungeon Morph dice.
yep,
Is
yep,
so
yep.
is your more physical product becoming much more of of kind of a central focus of the company at this point?
Well, I mean, the digital stuff still sells better overall. Now, of course, at conventions, we're just, you saw us at PAX Unplugged, and we're just kind of showing the software there and telling people, hey, there's a free demo version. You can download it and try it out, and then if you want to use the pro features, then you can make a purchase of it. Um, but it's probably, maybe it does get close to half and half overall when you
Okay.
factor in everything. But with impending tariffs coming in now, I only publish or I only print, manufacture in non-totalitarian states, if you will, which we'll see how much longer that's the case. But well, you talk about little odd things. My wife doesn't like me to get into the specifics, but we have a family member who was a protester at Tiananmen Square. So
Do you really?
I purposely don't do anything in China, if unless like there's like occasionally I'll order a sample and the company didn't tell me the manufacturing country. And
Okay.
so aside from a mistake, we don't we don't do any manufacturing in China, for example.
I did like again, your background is amazing. You have
Well,
a family member
and
who is into
you've got your thing, your stuff too. I mean, you're doing a charity a charity project for,
Yeah,
for
but
the church there, and you're keeping that. Yeah, so
well, I'm just weird, but you're
everybody,
remarkable. So
everybody.
yeah, I thank you for that. But that's really amazing that
Mhm.
that's for folks who that's not something that most folks will ever encounter. Someone who has a personal connection with that, and I think a lot of people nowadays don't even remember what it
Yeah,
is.
well, and again, it's not, it's my family member,
Yes,
relative, my wife, and so forth. So,
but
but I
what's
mean, if you, it's like 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon kind of thing too.
yes,
It's not six, it's two, but still.
that's pretty wild. And then,
Mhm.
and we're holding out. Like we're not going to do business in totalitarian regimes, which is
Right.
becoming more
Well, like I
difficult by
said,
the day.
we'll see. We'll see.
Yes. Um, we went way off the track there.
Mhm.
So we have a
So,
little bit of
so
go,
printing,
go, go, go.
the
Yeah, I'm printing.
question, well, your question was, so, I mean, we do our card deck printing, for example, is all done by a company, Shuffled Ink in Florida.
Okay.
Um, and then our dice are made with Q Workshop in Poland. So
Okay.
that's our two major, the two companies I work with the most for manufacturing.
Gotcha. I want to talk a little bit about some of the decisions for the printing of the cards when we talk about the backer kit, because I like the different different
Mhm.
levels that you can back at. But let's talk a little bit about this backer kit real quick.
Okay. Yeah.
Let me see if I can bring up the right one. There we go. And everybody should be able to hear us. But this is your Hexploration Decks. Would you like to just describe what this is for a little bit here?
Yeah, so we've, there's Andrew Shields is an awesome writer who has written a lot of our side quest decks for us and NPCs, NPC cards and so forth. And I just find him to be particularly imaginative and everything. So I love to hire him to do these projects. And he's, again, has a lot of imaginative ideas on those side quests and so forth. And I've, tying that together with our other stuff, I kind of had been supporting another artist for a long while who did the artwork on these cards.
Okay.
And I've kind of been getting their art every month and hadn't really done anything with it, but I'm like, I love the art and it was relatively inexpensive to support them. So I was just kind of piling up and looking for the right project. And then it came to me, well, hey, let's make a set of cards that help facilitate you to create a starting campaign area.
Okay.
And even though, I feel like I'm a pretty imaginative person, I can take like a bunch of genre things, a movie that I read, combine it with another book that I read, and maybe create a little bit of a setting, kind of thing. I can do that sort of stuff. But I feel like Andrew does it, 5 times better than I could. And so I thought, well, other people, might vary in the spectrum of how creative are you. Some people are going to be very creative, some are going to be less creative. You
Uh-huh.
know yourself. Um, so I thought, though, hey, even if you are on the more creative side, it doesn't hurt to be, to kind of double that, maybe, or whatever your factor might be, right?
Right.
By getting a bunch of ideas. So we took the art, and Andrew basically imagined what that location might be like and gave you a series of, 3, 4, 5 different charts for each of those things that are going to help you fill in the details of what that location is about if you want to put it on your map. And you can do it kind of like randomly. And at
Okay.
first we weren't even thinking about the mapping side of it. We were just like, okay, you can use our worldographer, or if you've got some other map tool that you want to use, whether it's a digital or a physical one, or you want to just draw out a map, go ahead and do that. So in the original iteration of the project, there was nothing about the mapping built into the project.
Okay.
And but then you can draw the cards and you can be like, okay, hey, here's this cool picture of a tower. Okay, I'm going to, put that tower in this location, and then I'm going to look at that back of that card for some of the more imaginative things about it, because there's a lot of other resources out there about, roll a d6 for the age, and multiply the D6 result by 10 or 100 or what, whatever, that kind of thing, for the age and the condition, and varying that, and
Okay.
all these other kind of more basic things, which will probably also have a card in the deck that kind of is how you can apply those, same sort of thing, but all on a single card that does all these kind of more common things.
Okay.
But what about, hey, there's these weird floating crystals around the castle. What are those for? And it's like, oh, that's the necromancer's, the souls that the necromancer has possessed and encapsulated, and are prisoners there. For example, so things like, or could they be a power source for the energy and defense system of this tower? Stuff like that.
Gotcha.
Are the things that Andrew had developed. And I would only be able, I would look at that and maybe I'd come up with one of those things, but I wouldn't come up with all six,
Okay.
for example. um so the idea is that you would pull these cards either randomly or look at the art and find one that
Hmm.
fits what you want, and look at those results, and again, randomly pick one of those results for those different factors of, how is this thing defended, or whatever. um and then, I lost my train of thought there.
That's okay.
Um, yeah. So
My
you can
brain's
use
still
the
trying to
card.
get my chat window to work, but that's okay. We're good.
Yeah. So you can use these cards to develop the whole setting, and oh yeah, you can either choose them,
Uh-huh.
or by seeing what fits the situation, what gels in your mind the best, or go random
And
and
just
kind of just
roll it
do
up.
your best to fit it together.
So it's in a sense, do you see this almost just like an alternative to the classic concept of like all the roll tables to like set up your starting area? Like this is like a different version of that.
This is a different version of that. Yeah, this is a way for you to set up your starting area. And I like the idea of, incorporating this into a session zero where you're about to start a campaign and the players are going to be making up their characters. But even before that, the advantage here, get the players involved in that, have them picking, hey, this is what the tower is about, and these are, that defense system or these crystals are for this reason, or whatever the case might be. And you as the DM should, can change that up if it doesn't fit after the fact, and
Right.
those can be rumors. The players, that character thinks it's this, but as the GM, well, that's just a false rumor, it's really this, for
Gotcha.
example. If you don't want to use it, you should still, play it straight by your players,
Hmm.
use most of it, tell them why it's not, or tell them, hey, it might not be exactly what you think.
Okay.
But the advantage of letting the players do this as part of a session zero activity gives the players the knowledge of that campaign setting, where it's not like you've got to download all this information and they might not be as bought in. Whereas if they help create that faction that's living in that tower, or they know all about that city because they were one of the people that was creating it there,
Uh-huh.
they're going to be bought in.
Okay. It's and you have the art, so they have a visualization. They have something to work off of
Exactly. Yeah,
with
you've
that
got the
as
art,
well.
which you can use. A lot of times, you know, we've got, say, the first card in the sample deck there. So yeah, the nice thing about it is we give you a nice big fat full size deck sample there, as well. And so in that first card of the sample, it's an arid city type thing, but you can use it as a city in some other
Yeah.
location.
Okay.
You don't have to be too tied into the art. But yeah, so you can use any of the city cards whenever you need a city, for example.
It's a really cool concept, and so it's not limited to one type of setting in this campaign that you put out right now. Like, what settings are you offering in this first BACKERKIT campaign?
Yeah, so the Hexploration decks, we've got four themes for the four different decks at the moment. We've got a Into the Wilderness, kind of more of a hex crawly type deck, if you will, of exploring a wilderness area type thing. We've got a Settled Lands deck that's going to be a little bit more focused on um, cities and towns and so forth,
Hmm.
places where there's a lot of civilization. We've got a deck that's called, we were always changing it. Otherworldly Domains, I think, is the title at the moment, where we're talking about magical places, maybe a fey realm, maybe a fire realm, stuff like that. Just
Hmm.
things that are off the beaten path, off the material prime, if you will. And then the fourth deck is the Underrealms, which is kind of our nod to the Underdark kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a fifth stretch goal deck, which we haven't announced the pricing yet, where we'll set that, because to do a whole additional deck does take a lot. So I'm not ready to
Right.
not, but because the nice thing about it is, with our stretch goals, unless something changes for some reason, our stretch goals are set up that it's included. You don't have to pay. If we put in that whole extra deck, you're getting it without paying anything more, if you're already getting
Oh,
the other four
okay.
decks.
Okay.
We've already, well, we'll talk about that with the tiles. So all of our stretch goals, are set up that, you're not going to have to pay more
Okay.
to get that extra thing.
Very nice. For
Um,
a whole deck as a stretch
for
goal.
a whole deck.
That's pretty
Yeah,
impressive.
yeah. But you do have to be in for 4 decks
Yes, you have to
already.
be the
But
whole,
you're
you have to be
you're gonna end
all,
up getting a, what is it, 20-25% discount, essentially, is what it works out to be.
okay, that's pretty cool.
Yep,
Um,
yep, yep.
so do you have, is this a
Oh, I'm sorry,
line?
and if I didn't
Go
say
ahead.
it, that last deck is a High Seas deck.
Okay, well, cool.
Mhm.
Like, so you had the extra deck. Are you looking to expand this line even like beyond classic fantasy tropes, like doing sci-fi or science fantasy or something like that? Is this like in your
That's
future?
definitely on the table. That's definitely on the table. I would, evaluate how this one goes. What's the demand? How do people like this once it's out in the field? And if we hit the marks, then we would certainly put that on the table.
It'd
Yeah,
be really like science fantasy in particular. It'd be like just something like totally off the wall. It'd be really wild.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
very, very cool. Um, we tell you, like, I love the idea of using it as a session zero tool and having the players, be part of that initial starting area idea. And the fact, if I don't like what they come up with, it's just a false rumor. I think that's actually absolutely brilliant.
Well, and to bring that in, that's oftentimes my go-to, because having written Worldographer, we get a lot of mapping questions and stuff. In
Okay.
fact, earlier today, somebody was asking me about scaling a map and everything, and I just, for some reason, I have this irrational, just, I don't know, it just gets me a little bit antsy to talk about scales on maps and everything. I don't know why it shouldn't, but it does. But in general, though, I just, think that, it needs to, you have to realize that the scale is going to vary so much between the poles and the equator, of course, unless
Uh-huh.
you've got a globe projection. Even on a globe, the Earth isn't a perfect globe; it's squished, that sort of thing. Um, so anyway, my point was that when you make a world map, you can change everything outside of the player's starting campaign area, because they haven't been there yet.
Right.
Everything that they've heard is, coming from some, two Lewis and Clark explorers that were the first ones to go, the first of that culture to go to the West Coast, if you will, right?
Uh-huh.
And how accurate is that map versus, reality? So you can always change things up if you, and that's not even trying to account for magic,
Right. Right.
so
Oh, that's really cool. No, I mean,
yeah.
it's
So
some people don't think
um
about that oftentimes. So,
yeah, so my go-to is, likewise, when you're setting up a campaign, there the you can change things. That you can have a false narrative, that kind of thing.
hmm
uh, so
and
yeah.
so who did? I know you mentioned it, but who did the art on the back of the Hexploration decks?
Oh, I don't think I'm. So this is the Forge Studios has done most of the art on those. There's a few where we didn't, where we wanted a particular concept which wasn't part of that catalog,
Okay.
that we've gotten from them. So we've got a couple of other artists involved as well. Um, um, Ellen Carter and Winston Liu, but the bulk of it is, by the Forge Studios.
Okay. Cool. There. I mean, the samples that you have up right now, they're just absolutely beautiful.
Yep.
And you
Yep.
did.
Well, I'm happy. Thank you. I'm happy
I
with
mean,
them.
they're really cool looking.
Yeah.
And but this campaign is not just about the decks, because you have this other product that's coming out of
Right.
it that
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
works with it. Um,
Yep.
but you have these little mini map tiles as well.
Right. Right. Yeah.
And I think it's fantastic. Who did you get to do the cartography on these little mini map titles or
Yeah.
tiles?
So I'm very, very lucky. I had not really been thinking, as I said, I had not really been thinking at all about doing the tiles when this project started, and because it's been posted for, hey, follow us when we launch, since like November of last year or something like that, and we kept on pushing out a little bit, and it seemed a little bit incomplete. It seemed like it needed that other aspect about mapping, and we
Mm-hmm.
had already refreshed Worldographer, and I wanted another physical product that goes along with it. So I stumbled across a bunch of the free maps that Dyson Logos has been doing,
Mm-hmm.
and he's got these recently these Autumn Lands maps, and before that, like the prior year, he had done these Midsummer Lands hex maps as well.
Okay.
And I'd always thought, hey, those look really cool for doing something with a hex mapping kind of tool, and maybe I could use those icons and everything, and put them into the tool. Of course, I've got like 15 different things to do for Inkwell Ideas on a given day,
Uh-huh.
to say nothing of all the other family responsibilities and stuff like I'm sure you do as well. So I never really followed up with Dyson on that. Although his license, his on his pages, these are part of his commercial use
Right, right,
map.
right. Okay.
Some of his maps are not,
Mm-hmm.
and some are. And these are. However, in my case, I'm very lucky that I had been working with Dyson on the aforementioned dice, the Dungeon Morph
Mm-hmm.
dice, back in 2011, I think, is when we started those. Dyson had been doing a blog, at the time, where he was doing like a new dungeon geomorph kind of thing, where he kind of created that 10 by 10 format, where it's a grid 10 by 10 with two exits on each side that can kind of connect to another little dungeon morph,
Okay.
dungeon geomorph, however we kind of coined the, squished it together, called it dungeon morph, right?
Uh-huh.
um so Dyson, I had reached out to him back then in 2011, before he started working for everybody else, including Wizards of the Coast. And in 2011, he and I and a few other bloggers put together that collection of designs to make the first set of dice, and we had a successful, in fact, for that particular Kickstarter in 2011, I believe, you know, I had heard of Kickstarter maybe like 5 or 6 months before I put that project together.
Okay.
And I was like, hey, this is kind of cool, but I don't know if there's critical mass yet. And then I backed another Kickstarter by somebody else in a board game, which I still actually have in the shrink wrap. I've actually never nothing. It's nothing against them. It's more against the fact that I don't have, none of my family has an interest in playing board games. But my younger daughter does at times, but she's 16 now. Anyway, but yeah. So that's it's my not opening that game is mostly a function of not having people to play with regularly to try out
Mm-hmm.
a new game. Anyway, so I bought that, or I backed that just to get a feel for what Kickstarter was like and everything. And then, yeah, I think it was, May of 2011 or March of 2011 that we launched it. At the time, people didn't yet get the feel for, hey, should Kickstarters be 30 days, 60 days, something else. The
Okay.
default was 60. So we just went the 60-day campaign. So it ended in May. But point being is that particular Kickstarter, um, I was seeing all these names of other creators that were backing it. We had like half of the Paizo Pathfinder team were there backing the Kickstarter, and I'm like, oh, interesting. And so it was spreading. So back then on Kickstarter, you could do, I mean, that Kickstarter, it made $20,000.
Right.
So not, but for 2011, I think that was like in the top 20 role playing game projects,
Oh,
even though it
wow.
was the
Okay.
first half of 2011. Um, so I think that it was like all these other creators were like, hey, first of all, okay, it's dice, and everybody needs more dice. So it's something that you can easily back, or you can easily get more of. And I just think it was a way for a lot of people to be trying out what's this Kickstarter all about.
Okay.
What is Kickstarter all about, not just Mayan.
Right, right, right. But it
So
did
yeah.
well. I mean, you can still buy the dice.
Yeah, yep,
So
yep, yep,
that's
yep.
that's
Yeah,
that's a
we
that's a
did
good
we did
sign
a
of a
few we over the years, we did a few more every 3 years we kind of pull out a new wave of them, if you will.
yeah. I mean, you've expanded. You have the city dice too, right? The city morphs, or
Yeah, yeah, there was the second wave was cities and villages and ruined cities, and then we did another wave of more dungeons and caverns, and then we did another wave of crypts, sewers, and layers.
yeah. I
So
do
yeah.
need to pick these up at some point. The city ones were really looked
Yeah,
interesting to me.
yeah, yeah.
So I didn't realize you had been kind of connected with Dyson Logos that long.
Yeah, so I mean, I think that's why he still takes my calls, because he's kind of like, okay, yeah, he's got fond memories or something. So
So
yeah.
so are the tiles, the art on the tiles, ones that he did just for his commercial license ones, or are these ones that he did specifically
So
for
yes,
you?
so what happened was I was like kind of making some sample tiles from those maps, where I was taking the maps and I was kind of cutting out some of the icons and such, and making my own tiles from them, just to see the viability of all this.
Okay.
But then I reached out to Dyson because I didn't, even though these maps are commercially usable and everything, it just felt like what I was doing was might be so much more than what he intended,
Sure.
so to put out there. So
Hmm.
I just thought, well, okay, let me reach back out to him and see if he's okay with me doing tiles
Right.
for a project, and even like we've as part of the crowdfunding project, we've got a thing where you can we cut out individual icons too, for adding additional towers and
Hmm.
towns and stuff onto the map. So um, I cut those out, and I was putting that all together. Um, I felt like I should reach out to Dyson, and since we knew him pretty well, I did that. And if I hadn't been working with him before, his answer probably would have been just, yeah, okay, that's fine. Go ahead, do what you
Okay.
want. It's commercial. I feel like I don't know. I haven't asked him this in detail, but I feel like that would be his answer.
Gotcha.
But because we had worked with him in the past, he said, "Oh, and not only that, but I'll redraw them and kind of cluster these maps into the tiles, so it'll be easier for you to kind of pull them out
Oh, that's awesome.
in more contiguous set, like, so that because we're doing them as three hex across sub hex type
Hmm.
things.
Hmm.
Uh, so he wanted to make it easy for me to kind of pull those apart, and so he's been redoing the maps for me, in that format. Now the sample tiles that I've got on the project aren't yet that.
Okay.
They aren't yet new ones from pulling them out. But we through the other stretch goals. So again, so the other half of the project is to make these 3-inch across hex tiles that you can print at home yourself, or you can order them from us as part of the print run along with the decks.
Uh-huh.
They're going to be laminated. They're going to be, with a 5 mil laminate. Essentially, like, I've got a test of what it will be like, and it's almost identical to like a driver's license, thickness wise
Oh,
and finish
really?
wise and everything like that. So yeah,
Okay.
um, so that's what the actual tiles will be, and then we're also all those extra little towers and towns and so forth are going to be little. Well, originally we were going to do them as stickers, but now we're almost certain that they're going to be clings, little static clings that you can kind of put
Oh,
on the top.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, and then they get dusty. You just rinse them with water and they stick again. It's really kind of, oh, that's
Right,
awesome.
right. Yeah, yeah. So that we're going to do that, and through the stretch goals, getting back to what we were through the stretch goals at no extra cost. That original 64 tile set of hex tiles, 3-inch across hex tiles, 3 inches by 3.46,
Uh-huh.
um, was going to be 64 tiles. We had a stretch goal to make it 72 at no extra cost already, And we've also already hit the stretch goal to make it 80 tiles at no extra cost. So the same original price that we were doing for 64, now you're getting 80 tiles.
Oh, neat.
Um, yeah.
Now, have you guys reached your funding yet?
So we did. Yeah, the original funding was just enough for me to do the print run, because all the writing is, well, we're tweaking the writing based
Okay.
on stretch goals and stuff, but 90% of the writing is done already.
Okay.
90% of the art is done already. So the funding was really just, hey, how much will it cost for me to print 250 copies of this?
Gotcha. Okay.
And then once, because I could do 100, but the price break, for 100 versus 250, it just doesn't make any sense. It makes sense to go 250.
Okay.
Um, and then, as the way that we can do these stretch goals at no extra cost is, as we qualify for a higher print run, then I get a 20% discount. Well, then I can pass that back to you.
Okay. The business is a fascinating thing that boggles my mind.
Yeah, well, and I don't, I probably, sometimes my other business friends tell me I'm being too generous. I'm doing not a lot of projects do this, where you get, like our first stretch goal was to add 2 cards to each of the decks, because there's a little fluky thing with card deck printers where they're used to putting in 2 jokers into a deck, so they don't
Oh,
really charge extra for you to do that.
gotcha.
So that was our first stretch goal.
Okay.
And then once, but doing a whole extra deck is something where, again, I'm just passing on the price break to you as a extra product or some other upgrade or something.
That's you know, being a good member of the TTRPG community, which is
Yeah, yeah,
nice. I
yeah.
think that's wonderful. And
Mhm.
probably, yes, the people who are into big business would probably say that's too generous, but
Yeah.
I don't know. People like you,
Well,
so that's a good
the
thing.
other side of the coin is, I mean, it's not like I'm buying a yacht with the money.
Right.
I'd be putting the money into the next project, that then it would, just like this one, like I said, this project here, I had pre-funded all the writing and the artwork, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So any additional would go towards that.
Yeah. Which is like I said, business is this wonderful thing that fascinates me, and I'm dumb. So my brain does not get it. I'm learning as I'm trying to grow this little mini con that I run, but it's a hard lesson because my brain does not think that way.
Yeah.
Um, but I want to talk a little bit more about these hex things because they're really fascinating.
Okay.
One of the things that I did notice is that all the sample images on the backer kit are all inland tiles.
Yeah.
So do you have inside the set either some river tiles or lakes or coastal areas?
Yeah. So, w- one thing that we're doing is, with the backs of the tiles right now. So, I don't really see. I want as many options as possible.
Okay.
So the backs of the tiles are not going to be, blank. Like, you're going to flip them down to flip them over. Like, I know, like, there's the Hexkit toolbox, I believe, that did that, and that's got a use. If you're trying to reveal the area,
Uh-huh.
uh, as people explore, and you want to have the tiles flipped down,
Yeah.
that's certainly a good option for that. For me, I was kind of like, well, I want the extra options of having extra art, more choices, on the cards.
Okay.
So I said, well, we're going to make it so that, like, half, this is still a little fungible, but basically half of the backs are going to be other designs,
Oh,
more mountains, more forest, whatever.
okay.
Um, and then probably about a quarter are going to be, and maybe even less. A quarter might be sea tiles, where they're just like a light blue blank kind of thing. And then the other quarter, but maybe a little bit less, will be blank, where they're white, but you can draw in. If you want
Okay.
something special, where you've got a very special, unique idea, you can get your dry erase or your Sharpie if you want to make it permanent, well, semi-permanent. You can take off Sharpie
Uh-huh.
if you go over it with dry erase, right? But anyway, so we can, give you those options on the backs.
Okay.
So that's one thing, and I was thinking about doing coasts that way too, where the backs, some of those backs would give you coast.
Mm-hmm.
But as I was experimenting with that, and this might be news even. I don't think I've shared this with anybody yet. This might even be news to the backers. Everybody who's been reading all my newsletters and everything, this will be news to them. But um, the backs, the coast, that just wasn't working because you'd have to have every conceivable combination of coastline and every possible conceivable terrain as well on the
Mm-hmm.
other side of it. Like, so
Mm-hmm.
you'd have to have grassland going to coast, and then you'd have to have mountains going to coast, and so forth, and you'd have to
Right.
do it so it would just be too many combinations. So what I think we're going to do, again, 99% sure, is we're going to do some more of those clings that are going to give you a bluish coastline to cover up part of a
Oh,
tile.
okay.
So you'll be able to, like, go from one corner of a hex to another corner of a hex
Oh,
with
neat.
that cling covering that up with a nice little coastline. Um,
That's kind of like an analog version of the generate coastlines in Worldographer,
yep, yep,
which is nice.
exactly.
So if you ever seen, for folks who haven't used that, like if you have the free version, you have the edges of the tiles come into the coastline and then generate coast, and it makes it all nice and fluid and fractalized and fun. That actually sounds like a really interesting thing,
Yep,
a
and
good
then
solution to
likewise,
it.
for rivers and lakes, I imagine that we can put in some extra clings for that as well.
Okay, that would be really fun. I mean, rivers are more difficult just because of you're going over features that are in the map, but
Yeah, but I mean, if I mean, originally for rivers, I was thinking blue Sharpie. We
yeah,
just
yeah,
fill it,
yeah.
we just draw it in. Um, but we might stick in a few clings, and we'll give you a couple of different different varying sharpness of your bend, kind of thing, so
Uh
you can
huh.
just kind of put it together like a puzzle if you wanted to, if you want to avoid going through the top of the mountain, kind of thing.
People are just going to have a lot of fun playing with that stuff. No, I actually I did the digital because when I try to put tiles down on a table, I throw them through things. Um, but now I'm thinking, man, with the clings, that would be kind of fun to play with. I might have to have to change my pledge, which is good. And I do want to talk about you have these both as print and digital as part of
Yep,
the backer kit. First off,
yep.
you have the demo versions. They're not all done yet, but have you tried using this at the table yet to create something?
Oh yeah, yeah. I've well, actually, I can even we're on camera, so why
We're on
why not?
camera. Show me.
So now these are not the clings that we're going to use, because this particular manufacturer only does a white cling,
Okay.
and we're going to be working with a company that does a colored cling. I mean, a clear cling rather. But here's like a C tile that I just printed myself and laminated,
Oh, that's cool.
and then put that cling on there. Now, this other sample comes from a prior iteration of the tiles, where some of these have the towers and towns already on the tile, and
Mm-hmm.
then there's also two clings there. So there's a grassland area
That's
with
cool.
two clings with the white around it, but then there's
Nice.
some of the other tiles that were pre-printed on there,
Uh huh.
which again, that's from a prior iteration of the project. So the ones that we're doing won't have those additional features built into
Okay.
the artwork tile.
Very, 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 very cool. I mean, it's just it's a neat looking thing. And um, well, before I want to show the demo of what you have created just using JavaScript because you were wanted to
Yeah,
learn something new. We'll see that in a second, which just blows my mind. Um, but one of the things that folks might get confused about is that you have pre-printed cards that you can back, and then the other thing that you can do is you can get the digital plus POD or print on demand,
yeah,
which I guess
yeah,
is going through drive-through. So is there a reason
yeah.
why you've offered both? Is it for shipping reasons to other
Well,
countries
so
or
for the POD, I mean, the POD is only going to be for the decks.
right?
Um, if you want to get the, because I just, again, looking out for other consumers, kind of thing. If I give you the PDF, I want you to have the option to get it printed if you'd like.
Okay.
And so I'm planning to just give you a print-on-demand code that reflects the price. So if you paid $5 towards that PDF, then here's going to be a $5 off coupon at drive-through to get it printed there. That sort of thing. Now with the tiles, I don't believe, I actually did not double check to know what is drive-through's hex tile size. Most other people don't do a 3-inch across kind of thing. They're like
Okay.
3 1/4, 3.5 or something.
Gotcha.
Um, so I don't, and they don't laminate, so, and they're not going to be
Oh,
double sided to the best of my knowledge.
okay.
So that's not going to be, so in that case it's really just like what I did there, what I had shown you guys. You can print it out, and I just, you can buy a $20 laminator, and
My
you're good
my
to go.
wife is a teacher. We got it. I'm like,
Yeah,
yeah, we're good.
you,
So,
yes, right.
except that stuff is too slippery. That's where it just goes flying all over the place. But it happens. But it's a neat option. I am very intrigued by the thickness of the hex tiles.
Yeah, I was impressed. I mean, I don't have an actual a hex tile that was done that way, but my printer, sent me, we were going over options, and they were like, "Hey, yeah, we made these business cards by this guy who does fishing tours, yeah, on in the California coast or something,
Okay,
and he wanted something that will be completely impervious to being on the boat and everything." So
makes
they they
sense.
they printed on their thickest card stock and then laminated it. And like I said, the sample that I got here, it feels identical to my driver's license.
That's really cool. I mean, they're going to take a beating and they'll be around for a while, which is really kind of cool. All right, let's take a look at this demo that you did because um, first off, before I go over to it, can you explain to people why you did this demo the way that you did?
Yeah, well, yeah. So you want me to recap our prior discussion
Yes.
about it
Well, they
for a
weren't
little
privy to it, so it's
Yeah, so one of my good friends who is kind of in the tech industry as well, and been raving about this one particular JavaScript framework. For people who don't know, JavaScript runs in your browser. Java is not. There was a time, but anyway, they are different things. JavaScript was just named JavaScript to confuse people purposely. That the company that came out with JavaScript was like, "Oh, Java's really popular. Oh, we need a name for a new library, and we want people to adopt it. Let's confuse them by giving it the name JavaScript, so people will think that our thing is the hot new thing."
and everybody
Uh,
was confused.
and yes, so anyway, so Java typically doesn't run too well. It doesn't, there's a lot of people trying to get Java to run again seamlessly in websites. There's some good reasons not to. There's probably some good ways to overcome that too. But at the moment, there aren't any great options for it. So I wanted to learn this other language, this other version of JavaScript, a library of JavaScript. It's called Svelte, that this friend of mine had been raving about. And I mean, the language JavaScript does borrow a lot of syntax from Java, so you can. In some ways, it's very familiar. On the other hand, those little differences can really be confusing. Because you forget. It's like, oh, well, well, to tie it into what everybody in our audience will understand. It's like, oh, I played second edition, first edition, third edition. Okay, I've got a wizard. How many spells do I get a day? It's like that. They're all just close enough to totally make you forget which option you need on any
Uh-huh.
given day.
Yep. So
Anyway,
you
so
created this just to learn this.
I wanted to learn this particular framework of JavaScript, and I was like, and I also wanted to show these tiles in a new way. I wanted to, I mean, to be blunt, I'm also, trying to avoid a lot of the social media sites because you never know who is going to be any good going forward, as far as
Yeah.
that goes.
Yeah.
Um, so, I was like trying not to pay for ads on the social media platforms, for
Mm-hmm.
example.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to get my word out about the project in organic ways, and having that free full size deck sample was great, and
Uh-huh.
having the tiles, the sample tiles. There's 45 of them that I had put out there in a zip file that you can just download and you can
Mm-hmm.
print them yourself and so forth. So those were ways for me to get the word out about the project in an organic way. And I was like, well, what's another way for me to do that? Well, I've got some experience making hex mapping software. Let me let me do that again.
Let me try to do it in JavaScript. This is good.
Yeah, let's try it in JavaScript.
So,
Let's try a simple one, a small stripped back one, because Worldographer has so. In fact, I did do a
we're,
video. I did a video showing how to use these tile, like, or doing a sample, creating a campaign area using the tiles and the cards,
oh,
using
wow.
Worldographer, and that's on the Inkwell Ideas and it's linked near the top of the project page for the crowdfunding.
I'll put a link
Um,
to the description for this below so we can
yeah,
see it.
yeah,
Let me
thanks.
bring the
Yeah,
demo
so,
up so I can show people.
yep.
Unfortunately, you can't see it.
No, that's all right.
Um,
I think I know what it's about.
you made it. So, folks, this is the website that it's on. You can see as soon as you load, it just creates a starting area. And I'm going to refresh, and it's just going to recreate a new one. So now we're in the desert. I'll do it again. Another desert. Here's another nice coastline. So that's really cool by itself because, I mean, that's just pretty wild.
Yep.
But then you have all these tiles down here, like a city, and if you click on it and then click somewhere on the map, it's just going to drop the tile in,
Right.
and
Yep.
you can create like pretty much anything you want.
Yep. Yep.
It's pretty cool. I'll put a tower out in the middle of this desert out here. Now, is there a way to save? Oh, save load a map is coming up. So right now you would just basically screenshot this to get the map
Yep.
recreate.
Yep. Yep. Yeah.
So,
Now I can't say, like, today I did get to a point where you can move the icons around the map, those towers
oh
and
really?
cities and so forth. I mean, so that'll be in the next update once I post it, once I fix some of the little nuance. So because I'm doing, like, basically there's two or three things I'm doing. That's one.
Okay,
Two is remove things from the map, those
gotcha.
towers. Um, then third will be to add little coastlines, as we were talking about, where you
Mm-hmm.
can just drop on the map and say, okay, I need, and so here's a little coastline snippet. Now that might be another day. I'm not sure if I'll get that out there tonight/tomorrow.
Gotcha.
Um, but right now, yeah. So then you'll be able to, connect a coastline from this corner of a hex to this corner of a hex and kind of build a little bit of it. It's not going to be an automatic wizard yet, but maybe we'll get to that too down the road.
It's really cool. I mean, I just created a map that's got a bay going through two land masses, and I'm just throwing things everywhere,
Hmm.
and it's insane. It's just and the art it's Dyson logo, so the art's beautiful, which is really cool. So definitely that's free to access right now on your website, right?
Yep. I mean, that'll be, forever free. I mean, we might at some point, I could see, okay, well, if we throw, just like with Worldographer,
Mm-hmm.
we might do something where, support our Patreon, and you'll get access to an extra, double the number of icons, for example, or something like that.
Gotcha. It's really I've seen things like this before, but to have the beautiful artwork and just those hexes kind of making something really cool looking, it's very nice. And I
Yep.
just love the fact, like, on the if you go to the website for the campaign, and just the way that it's written, it's like, I was just trying this out. You're like, oh, okay. Like, you just made this really useful thing. I was bored. I wanted to learn something new. Here's this cool tool that will blow your mind, which is awesome. Um, One of the other things I was really interested in, some of the artwork that Dyson's done for this is really cool. Do you have any plans of integrating some of his artwork into Worldographer at some point?
Not, that's not anything I've broached with him. I mean, doing something like taking these tiles and bringing them into Worldographer is something that I certainly could see happening. I certainly, would like to do, except for, I mean, we've got already an icon set that we call the Ring Lord icons, which are kind of reminiscent of the the Lord of the Rings books,
Yes.
which kind of along these lines already too.
Uh-huh.
Um, but if I were to do that, I would either either it would be some sort of a free set, free, but then it's a lot of time for me too.
Yes.
Um, so I think the most likely scenario is that we would put it together, but then also split the income with Dyson, even though these are part of his commercial use kind of thing. Again, it just doesn't feel right to to transform it not quite so much
Uh-huh.
without paying him back for it, figuratively and literally.
I I find that admirable. That's really kind of cool. It's really neat artwork. It's kind of cool to see it brought into this type of a setup. So I'm very impressed with it. Uh, the campaign closes when?
Yeah, I think on the 12th of March or thereabouts.
Actually, why don't I
I
bring
better
the
I
campaign
better
up and
pull that up.
I'm going to bring
That's
the
something
campaign up and we'll
I
figure
should have
that
had
one
that
out.
ready, right?
Give me,
Ends on the 12th. Yes, 12 on the 12th at 11 p.m. Eastern U.S. time.
okay. I'm just going to bring, there we go. I'll bring it up so people can actually see it. There we go. Yes. All right. So it ends on the 12th. And when do you expect you're intending for the rewards to ship?
Yeah. So what do I have there? I think I have it in the descriptions there. Generally, it's going to take probably about 3 months afterward.
I mean, it's a pretty fast turnaround.
Well, again, so we've got and it might be 4, but we ourselves want to have it at Gen Con,
Oh,
and
okay.
I will not sell it at Gen Con unless I've shipped before Gen Con,
Okay.
right? So it would have to be before that. I think that I've actually got it set to come out a month or two before that. I mean, for us, again, the bulk of the decks are written. Aside from if we do the stretch goal deck, the high seas deck, then we'd have, that we'd have quite a bit of work with that one. However, um, I know from experience of how Andrew writes that it's something that he would be able to finish. If I gave him the word, he would have it done within a month.
Gotcha. Okay.
And then we would go and the artwork we've actually planned it out. So we've got, even for that fifth deck, we've got all the cards, kind of like the sections identified for all the cards, the artwork identified
Uh
for
huh.
all the cards,
Oh, neat.
that sort of thing. So there's, it's more than half done, if you will, from that point of view.
Gotcha.
Um, so and then it's a matter of turning it around to our editor and giving him a little bit of time, and then having about a 6-week time frame for the printer to print it.
Gotcha. And hopefully you can get these so you can sell them at Gen Con,
Right. Yep.
which be awesome. So
Yep.
that's really, really cool. That's all I got for you tonight. I'm not seeing a whole lot in chat, and I think that either is my chat screwed up or something's wrong with YouTube. Because one chat showed up and then disappeared. It was very strange. Very confused. But really, thank you so much for reaching out, and thank you for spending some time and talking with me about these really cool products that you're putting out. And I'm looking forward to getting my hands on them. To tell you the truth, like I said,
Yeah.
I have to go and make myself get the
Well,
printed
that's
version
the
of the
that's
Hex
the
Girls.
thing. I mean, at PAX Unplugged when we met then, boy, what happened was I forgot a cable for the demo for the software. And I
Okay.
had spent all this time setting up the booth and getting a nice backdrop. I had upgraded the backdrop. I upgraded all these new poster prints that I got showing the software,
Uh
like
huh.
results of maps created in Worldographer. And I got all that all set up and it was looking wonderfully. And I go to plug in the computer an hour before PAX Unplugged is about to start. And I'm like, oh, I didn't bring that connector cable. I need to have an HDMI to, mini USB or whatever the port type is
Oh no.
connector. And I left it on my desk. And I'm like, and I know I left it on my desk. I'm like, oh my God. And one of my booth mates there was like, saw my face completely drop. That's what she said. She's like, I just saw your face. And it turns out she was able to go to there's a little FedEx Express store just outside of the convention hall, still
Yeah.
in the same building, and pick up the required connector, which really saved my. But so you came to PAX Unplugged right after it opened, so
Yes.
that it just happened.
Oh my
So I was
gosh.
still super frazzled from that when we were doing
You
our
didn't let it that let on that that had happened.
well, point being was that I had that sample PDF deck. I had like 20 copies pre-printed of that sample, and I was giving it out to everybody, all the different
Oh,
interviewers. And so I had forgotten to give it to you because I was so frazzled.
I did not know, nor would I ever hold that against you.
Yeah.
I was just really glad that we had a chance to meet and to talk. But thank you. And I've been there when oh no, I forgot the one cable that makes everything work.
Yep.
It's one of
Yep.
the worst feelings ever.
Yeah.
It's just bad. So I am really grateful. As more things come out, please reach out. I would love to talk with you about things that Inkwell Ideas has planned. I would love to talk with about the update to Worldographer at some point in the future as that gets more settled.
Yep. Yep.
I know you had a Mac guy was working on it, kind of tweaking it for Mac. I'm hoping that gets done so I can put it through its paces in a platform that honors it,
Okay.
which should be a lot of fun. And I'm looking forward to seeing these things come out. So.
Okay. Yeah. No, I love talking to you. Like I said, I mean, when working on this kind of full time ish, but I work with a number of freelancers who are all in different states, so it's great to talk with anybody whenever I can.
I'm I love it. It's absolutely been a blast. Folks have said this has been a really good interview. They like the products. They're saying thank you to you. And I'm really grateful for it. So please stay in touch. I'm going to say goodbye to everybody just by myself, and then if you stick on for a minute, I'll just say goodbye to you properly in a second.
All right.
But thank you so much. This was a blast.
Thank you. Yep.
All right, folks. So please go over to Joe's site. And actually, I think I have the URL screwed up in the description. I'm going to go fix that as soon as I get off the chat with Joe so we can get it. But go back these products. They are really, really cool. If you want to invest in doing some hex crawls, which I think is one of the most underplayed version or like concepts of the game at this point, because hex crawls are so much fun, so much tension, so much cool exploration. And these look like beautiful products to use. So go check it out. Go check out that really wild JavaScript thing that will blow your mind. And I'm looking forward to seeing this product get delivered. Wednesday, I'm coming back. Don't forget, I am going to be talking with Shadowmane and Jason Campbell, and we're going to be talking about his murder mystery, which should be really cool. And then on the 4th, I will have an invite or a thing to talk about, which once that gets finalized, I will talk about that. But I'm really excited for that next issue or episode of Skipping Lunch. Until we see each other again, folks, well, happy playing, everyone.